We made it to the Villa Vie Odyssey.
How was the check-in?
How was the food?
How was our cabin?
Let's find out.
As we drove up to the Villa Vie Odyssey, it was borderline surreal. The excitement was palpable as we entered the port. Everybody was getting so excited. I just can't believe it's really real. We're really here. We entered through deck 2, forward starboard, near the medical area. They have that area isolated off from the rest of the deck for entry and exit. They checked our boarding information, our passes, and took our photos. Then we did a brief security screening. They were very friendly. They had some drinks available. And then they marked our luggage for delivery to our cabin. We then took the elevator to deck 5 and walked aft to reception. At the reception desk, they took our passports, checked our information, and checked us in. We were given badges and room keys.
Badges? We don't need no stinking badges. Oh, no.
Note, I don't know if other cruise ships take and keep your passport while you're on board. I don't know if this is normal or just a Villa Vie Odyssey thing because it's a residential cruise ship. Let me know in the comments. So after we got our room keys, they suggested that we have lunch while we waited for our bag to get sent down to our room.
And now for something completely different.
Now here I'm going to talk about filming etiquette and why I film things a little bit differently than maybe some other people do. Part of this is based off of lessons learned that I got while we were in La Paz, and we ran into some Villa Viers, and we were politely but firmly informed that it's very important to request permission before filming. And there has been some influencers who came on board in the past before us who maybe they were posing as try before you buyers, but they came on board and it seemed like they were there more for the drama, especially in the early phases of the Villa Vie Odyssey, where it was really, really questionable about whether or not the ship would survive. Okay?
You see, this is why. This is why we can't have nice things, Barry.
And so there were people that were very gun shy when it came to filming. And because we're not residents, we were guests on board, I made sure to be ultra respectful. This might impact what you see and how I shoot certain things because I am a guest. This is their home and it's not a typical cruise ship. And so I treated this like I'm walking through somebody's living room. So that will dramatically impact how I record things. Now, on some of the other content creators who live on board the ship, they've got the relationships with everybody on board. So they're going to do things differently. It was very, very important for me as a guest on board that ship to be respectful, to be cautious. But I think it's important to know that if you're considering going to the Villa Vie, this is a home, and it's really hard to get that across, but as I have molded over in the time while we are both on board and since I've left, this is a special place. And so keep that, I almost want to say reverence in mind, in that what we're looking at is something historical. The first residential cruise ship on the planet. The first one designed for middle class and above folks to have a roving retirement cruise, which is just amazing. So forgive me for waxing eloquently about the socialness of this, but I really do feel that it's important as you go on with us as we go through the ship, that maybe you understand why I do things the way that I do. So just something to keep in mind with that social etiquette on board.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, after reception, we went up to deck 6, and you can use the elevator or the lift if you're British. I like that term, the lift. We often lifted up and then walked down to our cabin, or anytime we went up, we would lift up, we'd walk down to save our knees. But it was really nice to use the stairs for getting my steps in, especially when we were on sea days. So we went aft to the Palm Cafe, aka the buffet. You always use the hand sanitizer as you enter, and absolutely make sure to pay attention to the meal hours. Your life will revolve around the meal times while you're on board, especially on sea days. On sea days, meal times determine practically everything that you're going to do, especially because you don't have 24/7 food. This is a small ship, right? 500 people if it was completely maxed out residents. There were roughly 200 people for the crossing that we did, and there was almost as much crew on board as there was residents. As a result, if you want food, you better eat it during the meal times. So we went to the buffet, and the buffet will be basically similar for every meal, but I will do follow-on videos talking about what happens. So at lunch, you always start with a salad bar. There might be specialty salads and sides after that, then a charcuterie board. Oh, I love prosciutto. So always got prosciutto anytime it was out there. Melissa loved all the fresh fruit. When you get to the entrees, there will be multiple choices. Usually on the meat side of things, pork, chicken, beef, seafoods. After the entrees, you're going to go to the pasta bar. I'm going to throw a special shout out to the girls that work the pasta bar and do the omelet bar. I love you girls. They were all so sweet, so friendly. There is both a marinara and a pasta sauce there, different toppings, and so you could always get pasta if you want to. After that is going to be what I lovingly call the health food zone. And you might get tofu there. You're going to get your low sugar, low fat, low spices, less seasoned chicken and fish or other sources of protein, right? Then there will often be rice, maybe some stir fry, unseasoned chicken, fish, that sort of thing, and some vegetables. There were almost always, if not always, vegetarian and or vegan options. I don't do that myself, obviously. But there were a lot of people that ate that route, and they always seemed to be fed. So I will leave that to other influencers who might be more vegetarian or vegan. I'm pure carnivore. After that, everybody's favorite, the dessert zone. I loved it that there was a mixture of what I call full carb, full sugar, and low carb, low sugar options. I'm trying to eat semi-carnivore, semi-keto, and I was really concerned about weight gain and type 2 diabetes while I was on board the ship. I will say that thanks to all the steps that I got in, eating healthy and eating like an absolute carnivore while I was on board, my blood sugar did better on there than it did on the whole drive there and even on the way back. Living on the ship was really good for my health. The dessert zone will also have fresh fruit. Often we'll have ice cream and usually a couple different interesting types of desserts. 90% of the time they were great. I also want to give a shout out to the coffee machine. It was glorious. If you love espresso and or a macchiato, a cappuccino, you want something, molto bene. It was phenomenal. I do miss just drip pot coffee though. And by the end of our time on board, we really missed our French press. We really missed just drip coffee. It took a lot of time, or it took time to get your coffee from the coffee machine, but I still love it. And if I ever go back, I will give that coffee machine a hug. Okay. At the buffet, once you get your food, you have your choice of dining inside or dining outside. All in all, our first meal was excellent, and that burned up some time for us to go to the muster drill and orientation. We went on down to Deck 5 to the Coral Club for the muster brief and an orientation of prohibited spaces and things that you should not do. Obviously, she is a working ship, and there are some places on board that us as residents and or guests don't go to. So don't do it. The muster brief was what I assume to be standard issue cruise ship importance, right? You find out where your muster station is, where's your lifeboat, how to put on a life preserver, all that standard issue stuff. No big deal. Get her done. And they did it for a whole group of us, everybody that arrived on board that day. And it was a good chance to meet fellow noobs, Villa Vie Odyssey virgins, the folks that just got on board. And some of those folks became good, folks that we definitely kept in contact with more just from the fact that we had that in common of our arrival date. After the orientation and muster training, we went on down to our cabin. Our cabin was on deck 3, room 3155.
And now for something completely different.
So this is very important for me to let you as the viewers know. The room that we were in was a rental, as in it's owned by an owner, a resident of the Villa Vie. It is her cabin that we rented via an off-site rental platform. We did not rent directly from the Villa Vie. We rented from villavierentals.com, I believe. Note that each room, each cabin is different. This cabin had some of her personal things because when we got on board was during their time around America. And so the owner went back to the mainland, I would assume, for that period of time and wanted to recoup her costs, her monthly expenses, so she rented it out to us. This particular owner did not have a television in her room. Now, to some folks, that could be the end of the world. To us as 250-year-olds, it was pretty glorious. We didn't miss that spot on our wall at all, okay? Note. So I just needed to give you that information before we walk into our room. So now, let's check out our cabin for the first time.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
All right, hey everybody, we're just outside our room 3155. So we're renting from a private villa owner, and this is going to be us walking in. So being a private villa owner, she does have some of her stuff on here, her magnets. And we were warned that there's no television in here. Honestly, for us, that's no big deal at all. And there we go. It's a little tight, but it's good. She's got some organization. We got our life rafts. We've got that stuff. And then, welcome to the bathroom. It's snug, but in all honesty, it's a bigger shower than what I had on a submarine. Welcome to our cabin. I might do a 360 video later, but this is pretty much it. Here's your 360 view. And in comes my beautiful wife, and it's time to get unpacked. Now, when we got on board and got into our room for the first time, we were both a little fried and we were a little overwhelmed. So I did not record a lot initially, but I am going to pop in here some content that we recorded at the end of our time so that you see what our room was like, what our cabin was like, and maybe some of the things we added to our room to make it really livable. I will say that I found the cabin to be very functional for the two of us. Now, I was a submariner, my wife was on aircraft carriers. We're both used to living in small spaces, and we both RV'd full-time for years. So we're completely accustomed to small living spaces. And because we're on a budget, we didn't need a porthole or a window or an atrium, a lanai, a patio, whatever you want to call it, right? All we cared about was being on the ship, eating good food, seeing the Pacific and Hawaii. So for us, the interior cabin was phenomenal, right? I adored it. Kind of miss it because I like being a minimalist and don't like having a lot of extra stuff. So yeah, check us out at the end after us getting settled in and see what we thought of the room. All right, here is one closet. She has a thing with 6 drawers. Safe is here. Of course, you've got your life preservers. Hangers keep multiplying. And then your little mini fridge is down here, little area. Laundry bag. Thing for the cleaning girl. I'm going to do this vertically just because the room is a little small, and this lets you see a little bit more of it. Always important to know your muster station, your lifeboat number, all of that information. One little chair, little nightstand. I don't think there's one on the other side. Nice little map. Everybody seems to have maps. Go figure. And then the bed. Other than that, everybody uses magnets for hanging things. She has a foam topper on there. That was wonderful. Really helped out. The desk was enough space for me to lay out my laptop, my external hard drive, all of my cords, my charging cords, all the things. So the owner had these multiple bins when we got here, had the cups, all of those really, really useful. Truly, like, all of this wall space is very useful real estate, but the best way to make that useful is with magnets. Love the fact that that's on a hose. Great for washing yourself off, even hosing down extra sand and whatnot if the beach that you go to doesn't have washing stations. So suction cup mounts is another good way because some of this isn't metal in here. So suction cups for the win. And I think that's about it for the bathroom. This was very handy for drying, so that goes all the way across over to there. So you can dry your clothes, your towels, etc. I think that pretty much covers the room. I mean, it's only 192 square feet. Final real lesson learned: top off your water bottles at dinner time before you go down to bed. You don't really want to drink the water coming out of the faucets. So you want to get your filtered water. We're wrapping up. I guess we're out of here.
Hope you enjoyed our first few hours aboard the Villa Vie Odyssey. Join us next episode as we settle into the ship and visit Cabo San Lucas.
We have a lot more Villa Vie Odyssey content coming up, so like, subscribe, and stay with us on the journey.